Debbie, do you have a packet?
I'd like to call the East Ascension Drainage meeting to order for the September 10th, 2018. The secretary let it be known, Mr. Turner. Everyone else is present. Mr. Kim, would you do the invocation followed by the pledge?
Let us pray. Father, your grace is always sufficient, and you pour out more than we all deserve, and we thank you for it. We thank you for the recent tropical storm and directing it away from Ascension Parish and protecting our residents. We give you thanks for that. We also pray, oh God, that the other disturbances in the Gulf, Father, will steer clear from our area and that you protect those that may even be affected by it. Today we lift up the Matassa family. Our president lost his father, someone who was a pillar in the community in Donaldsonville and served his country, devoted to his church, his family. We pray for them tonight. And Father, as they go through their bereavement, we ask that you soothe them because you're the only one that can give them peace in such a time. Give us the wisdom as we do the people's business. Let us continue to focus on the things that's necessary to make Ascension a wonderful place to live and to work. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank everyone. Anyone wishing to speak on any agenda item, please sign in with the secretary. We will be pulling agenda item number 11. We'll be getting back with you on that. We'll move on to number 4, the acceptance of minutes for the August 6th meeting.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Terry. Second by Mr. Johnny. No chairman's report. We'll move on to number 6, drainage report. Mr. Joey Turo.
Let the speaker go.
We have several consultants working for us. GSA is continuing to work on the Fish Bayou project. That work is being funded by the Pontchartrain Levee District. So they would have most of the details on it. I know they reported that the stage they're at now, they will be making a what's called a cultural resource survey to the Corps in the next day or so. They did report that the response from the Corps on all submittals has been very prompt, and they attribute that 214 agreement for that. And they say the Corps has been very responsive. We have ELOS that is working on some wetland permits for us. We're just employing them to go into areas that we plan on shredding or doing any ditch work on to make sure that we keep the Corps, satisfied on the work that we're doing, that we're not doing it without a permit through the Corps. We have H. Davis Cole, who is working on the New River drainage project. They have recently submitted what is called a 30% preliminary plan to us. We will all the surveying of the project area along New River has been completed. Surveying around the bridges also. So they have submitted those plans, 30% plans to us. We will have a meeting with them this Thursday to discuss those plans and make any revisions we feel necessary, and hopefully get them to continue towards full implementation of the plans. And lastly, we have HNTB, who is working on the Bayou Conway floodway, the LOMR, the letter of map revision. They have submitted the maps to the parish with the proposed revisions. Brian Martinez of our IT department, the parish's IT department, took those plans and made them legible, more legible, and also to where we, the parish, myself and Miss Marcia Shivers, can meet next week with individual people that want to look at those maps and see how it affects them. So that will be available next week. Submittal has been made to the local papers, so the notice for those maps being available will be in this week's Ascension Citizen and Donaldsonville Chief. So those maps will be on display, like I said, next week, and it'll be open to the public for them to come see. And this affects, just the southern part of the parish. This was chosen as step one of a study in the parish, and it was chosen as one of the largest flood districts that we have, which is the Bayou Conway area. And that's all I have.
Mr. Ron?
Yeah, I'll just give you an update on what we talked about at the last meeting. Send out the reports. If you got any individual questions or work orders that will send out, we'll be glad to talk those one-on-one at a later time. But the litter control update is since April, I believe it was, we started. Excuse me, we've got a total of 23,480 cubic feet of litter, a little over 3,000 bags that have been picked up thus far, and that's still continuing to work out really well for us. Getting into the Hurricane Gordon, as Mr. Dawson was alluding to, thankful that it did not come this way, but we were prepared in that sense if it did come. So grateful it did not, and we did enact Marvin Bro Pump Station prior to that and get a controlled level down prior to anything would have been here. So we also have an update on the weekend rain that we had this weekend. We had several flash flooding type events. Friday it started off with a total, mainly in the Geismar and Upper Gonzales, Prairieville area. You had a pretty good bit of rain there. Around 4.5 inches of rain fell in 4 hours' time. But one crucial point of that is 2.5 inches of the 4 inches fell in 30 minutes. And that was right around the Bayou Goudin area and Babin Road and 621 and Bayou Grand South area. Really saw the effects of that. It did go down pretty quick, but it was a flash flooding stacking event. We did enact Marvin Bro Friday night into Saturday morning to get that rainfall out of here. Saturday you did have another event in the Henderson Bayou Basin. That one was a roughly 1.5 inches rain in less than an hour right at Galvez, and you saw a lot of pooling in those areas. It did not enact the Henderson Station. The water didn't really get much more than 2 foot there, but it was significant enough to pool out on streets until it went down. We did respond to several complaints, and by the time we got to them, we did document that the water had receded out of the streets and it was flowing out. Other than that, we did ride out in Bayou Conway and re-inspect that. We rode up the old Panama to the railroad trestle. There's 2 railroad trussels there, one on Conway and one on the old Panama. It does appear that they did raise the one on the old Panama. The old pilings are still there. I talked to Mr. Shakesnider today about an update with, are they going to raise it higher than that? Because it appears that roughly it's been raised 6 to 8 inches is what we're seeing right now. And he's trying to get confirmation if they're going to raise that higher than that, or is that what they're proposing to be complete. So I look forward to getting an update from him on that. Moving into routine maintenance, the roadside ditch digging contract is going to be active later this week when Mr. Matassa gets back. We are going to meet with that company this week and start sorting out the task orders, and we should get that contract active in the next couple of weeks, and you should see work started on that. Roughly would go over the work orders list that they will be targeting is roadside ditches. We have the 4 quadrants in the parish. We have been focusing our efforts in towards Prairieville area. We roughly have 50 of them on the northeast quadrant of the parish work orders. And in the northeast, you have 101 work orders, and in the southeast, you have 83. And in the southwest, towards Dara area, you have very few, around 10 or so. So you can see that the most of the complaints from the parish are coming from the northeast and the southeast, and that's where we're going to target those contractors to start, trying to break those lists down and get them smaller to where we get a good better turnover time rate on them. At this time, I would like to conclude my report and yield to Mr. William. I think he has an item he'd like to discuss with you in the report.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. We'd like to, Mr. President was hoping that we could get a resolution to help us with our discussions with Livingston Parish. We'd like to have a resolution to suspend the $800,000 we pledged for the weir in Livingston and include those in part of the discussions that we're having with the Laurel Ridge lawsuit. So,
Motion.
Second.
Hold up, time out.
Yeah.
It's not on the agenda, so y'all have to first make a unanimous motion to amend the agenda, and then y'all can take it up.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make that motion to add that to the agenda.
Second.
Ms. Deb, would you give us a roll call?
Bill Dawson,
Yes.
Daniel Satterley,
Yes.
Randy Cluott,
Yes.
Aaron Lawler,
Yes.
Terry Cazzo,
Yes.
Todd Lambert,
Yes.
John Cagnolati,
Yes.
Jim Johnson.
Yes.
I
We're
vote
gonna add
yes.
Entertain a motion.
We will put that, the resolution as,
But Dempsey, hold on, let's make sure we do this. Anytime we add something to the agenda, we need to go ahead and open it up for public comment since it wasn't on the agenda. If anybody wants to speak, then close it, then y'all can take the resolution.
Motion to open public comment period.
Second.
any objection to the motion? Not motion passed. Tell you what, we're gonna put that as 7A.
Cody, you want to take the comment now? Is that what you say?
Y'all can take it up now since y'all amended it, or if y'all want to take it up when it comes up, wherever Dempsey wants to put it at the chairman, that's up to y'all.
We'll put it at 7A if that's okay. We'll get back to the report. Anything else, Ron?
No, that concludes it.
Joe, you finished?
Yes.
We'll go to the commissioners. Mr. Dawson?
So was HNTB going to make a report, or there's nobody else?
Not tonight, but.
Okay. So I'd like to get some clarifications on the, on this work, the Lomar work. Are you prepared for that, or would that be HNTB? So for example, I want to, Melissa.
Yeah, she's here if there's any questions.
Okay. So I want some clarifications that this was, first I'd like to know how many residences does that affect?
I can't tell you how many residents. I don't know that number.
So second, then I want to know, I think the explanation is my understanding that takes these people that were in Zone A's, which means they were in the flood zone, but there was no established BFE, And we hope that they'll move them over into Zone X, which will put them in the 500-year. Is that correct?
Much of the area that is correct. So, and then there's some areas which were designated Zone A will now be AE. So there will be established base flood elevations everywhere in that watershed.
Okay.
What was your other question? Some areas are going to be, the water level will be increased a little bit, so there will be some BFEs going from an X to an AE. There are very few little areas like that. But I'm not sure if there's real residences affected by that. It'd be very limited.
You know, just a comment here is that I've been promised this since 2016. You know, that this would be completed at the end of 2016 was the first commitment I got from HNTB. So here we are now in the middle of 2019, that the completion date is.
It's 2018, Bill, not 19.
Time keeps on slipping.
No, the completion date on the schedule is 2019, May of 2019. Is that correct, Melissa?
Yes, he's looking at an updated schedule that I developed based
Yeah.
on conversations with
I mean,
FEMA.
I generally know the year. Not every day, but generally. I
We
do.
thought you said that we were right now in 2018. Okay.
All I'm saying is that, you know, we're 3.5 years, you know, behind the schedule. Can somebody tell me why?
I can't say exactly that we're that far behind the schedule. I mean, remember, we started this with just as an evaluation of Bayou Conway, Panama Canal to look for flood improvement projects. This project came out as a result of that. When we ran the model, we noticed that our floodplain areas and elevations were less or different than what was shown on the FEMA map. So we suggested to the parish that we can make some adjustments, we can do a LOMAR and see some improvement and change zones, get established AE zones, get established floodway zones, and allow many residents to get reduced flood insurance rates. So that's where we are.
Well, and that's the point of this
Yes.
is, you know, I think I don't know, you don't have the number of residences, but I'd say it's hundreds.
Probably.
It's not tens and it's not
Correct.
ones, it's hundreds.
Correct.
Of people that could see a reduction of up to $1,000 a year in their insurance premium.
Correct.
And that's the driver in this, and I'm not confused. I'm concerned
Correct.
that we haven't yet another date. And now that's, you know, is this date gonna slip, or is this
Can
date
I
of
say?
5/2019, is that now a firm date?
I hope so. When I talk to the FEMA, we deal with a FEMA representative. We have a point of contact at FEMA that we've been dealing with. And I talked to him last week. He had sent me an email earlier outlining what the schedule was. And because this is such a large basin, they're usually dealing with LOMARs that might affect a very small area. But this is many, many square miles. It affects 13 different panels. So when we were done with all our analysis and gave everything to FEMA, the last thing they need is the documentation that we've done the public notification. And as soon as I get that, we will send that to FEMA. In the meantime, they have to put together their own internal packaging, coordination of the data that we provided, developing all the maps in the FEMA format. And then they said they have to go through their own internal reviews. So from this point to getting to the point of issuing the LOMAR, the draft, I'm going to call it draft because it's not final until there's an appeal period. He said it would be about 6 weeks. So this schedule is based on what he told me last week. So 6 weeks is when we show that they issue the LOMAR. And then he said they have to issue 2 public notices. I don't know why, but a week apart. And then once they do that, then a 90-day appeal period starts. In addition to that, because we're establishing floodways in this basin, we may have to revise the flood damage reduction ordinance to account for that floodway being shown on the FEMA maps. So that's all the communities are affected. So it's Ascension Parish, Gonzales, and Sorrento, since this drainage basin includes all of those areas.
So maybe I missed the answer, but is that 5/10/2019? Is that a
correct.
firm date?
I'm
Yes.
I am hoping it's earlier, that if these flood damage reduction ordinances do need to be revised, that we can get them done in the 90-day appeal period. But he said they allow another additional 90 days just for that task if it takes longer to get those done. And they
Because
were.
and I'll say this in your defense, a lot of these promises were by your predecessor, and maybe that's why he's not here anymore. But, I do appreciate the work that you've done on it. But, I really feel like that these residents are the ones that are suffering from this. We're talking about literally hundreds of thousands of dollars that in premiums that they're paying that could be reduced.
I concur.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Mr.
Chairman.
Sadler.
I'm fine.
Mr. Aaron.
I'm good right now.
Let's go.
Yeah, real quick, for HMTB, if you come back to the podium, appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and agree with you that, in Bill's, that this project somewhat evolved. It started out with a conception of what he was trying to do to help the people in that area, and it developed into a pretty big project. So at what point do we, or is that within your task to tell us how many residents?
We can look at the maps and
Well, I'm
do a
just saying,
count.
as of right now, there was nobody working
No.
on to, because that's important to people that represent people. That's what we do, and that how many residents. And we know as we go forward to try to get any kind of federal help, and all of the first thing they want to know is how many people you're trying to help, 5 or 5,000. So I was just wondering, is that part of some type of analysis or review that you do, or that y'all look and?
It was not part of what we did, but it can be done relatively quickly. Also, the GIS people, they have all the data, so they can show the difference between the original FEMA maps and what we're proposing. And they have that right now, and they've developed some maps. So they can also do that very quickly.
So we would be waiting on the parish administration to tell us how many people that's going to help.
Yeah, I think it's like Melissa's saying, the maps that they gave us, we would just have to expand them to where we could count houses that are in between those two lines, the line of where the X zone was before and where it's proposed to be.
Yeah.
And then also, there's some areas that were in an A zone or in an AE zone that the number actually went down, say, from a 8 to a 7 or something like that. Those people, they're not, taken out, but they're still helped quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just interested, both administration and the contract, the engineering firm, is that, hey, at some point we need to quantify
I got you.
how many people we're moving up and how many people we're moving down.
Yeah, we can work on that.
And so, and on another subject, Ron, thank you very much, ma'am. Ron, on your report, we had talked about the possible culvert over Stringer Bridge Road at the DeLone Ditch, the Mark DeLone Ditch, I'm gonna call it. And where we stand on any of that, and have you been able to figure out who in the state that came out and looked at that? And because the state came out and looked at it.
The state part, we were going to dig from Stringer Bridge to, I think it's Calvin Tomplay Road.
Right.
Now, Cantrell was out on vacation last week, and Mr. DeLong was prior to that, so they should be meeting later this week to line up digging that section of ditch. But the actual state, I'll reach out this week to probably Aaron Edelsord and find out.
Yes, reach out to Aaron, District 61, because somebody with the state did come out, and they looked at, from Buster Road, they looked back,
Yeah.
well, from, I'm gonna call it the Clyde Savoy Ditch.
Sure.
From that area all the way back toward, George Lambert.
All
And
right,
that's
we'll
the
follow
break
up with
line for that. Good deal. And, back to your report on the ditch contractor. You said you're gonna start where? What area?
The southeast quadrant and the northeast quadrant, which is 44 is the boundary north and south running through the middle of the parish. And then you have, I believe it's Highway 621. So north of 621 and east of 44 is northeast, and south of that is the southeast. So those two areas have the largest quantity of requests in the roster right now. And we are trying to group them where he's in isolated areas to where he can catch 20 or 30 of them within, say, a city block, and then have his next task linked to that and kind of walk him around those areas. And he said he does have multiple crews, so we would like to task him in each quadrant and try to see how that works. And we will also utilize our staff in more methods to where we can assist with road projects and things like that, better coordination between departments, where if we go with the Ascension overlaying program, maybe we can coordinate a little better with our in-house people to go do some roadside maintenance for internal needs prior to them doing infrastructure improvements.
All right. Where we stand on, you were looking at the project for the culverts in Buxton subdivision, or I can't remember the street
Yes,
exactly, but.
It's Riverside Estates.
Yeah.
Riverside Estates, Shealy Place, Bayou Estates. It got me off guard. There's one other one. But anyway, Brian Hammett and Associates are drafting bid documents on those. You have a large amount of driveways in there on each one of them. And I met with them Friday a week or two ago, and they telling me that at the end of September, beginning of October, we should have all the needed documents to move forward with possibly bidding those jobs out.
Thank you.
Ms. Terry.
I spoke briefly today with GSA regarding the fish bite and was very pleased with the report that you also gave, that the 214 seems to be working well where that's concerned. And so I'm pleased to hear that, maybe late this year, before the end of the year, maybe early next year, we'll have a permit. I think that's, I've always felt like any date's ambitious because it just always seems like it's a moving target, but I'm hopeful. And so my question is, once we are issued a permit, how long are we going to be before we can start construction there?
I think she mentioned, Kimberly didn't come tonight, but she said she would come next time, because it'll have an updated report, and it may be, a little more substantial in that regard. But I think the dates that you had mentioned is what she was saying also, possibly the end of this year, early next year, that we might see construction there.
Well, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate everyone's effort.
Mr. Todd.
I'm good right now.
Mr. Johnny.
Nothing for right now.
And look, I'll finish up with, I want to thank everyone with DPW and plus our citizens. I mean, we have been getting some rain events here that's really unheard of, and they out there pulling limbs and different debris out of stuff to make sure everything's draining. Really want to thank everyone for going out on a limb trying to help us with this. But when you hear of 2 inches falling in 30 minutes, my friend, we in trouble. So everyone just needs to look out for each other and hope for the best.
I do want to fall in on that, Chairman, with our employees. Really appreciate them. I have some great supervisors that are dedicated. I know I can count on them anytime. If I call them, they're coming. And I hope the public realizes what they have working for them. It really is an honor to work on side of them.
Appreciate you. I had one speaker that wanted to speak on number 6, Mr. Clint Whitmore.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. First, I just want to say congratulations to the Drainage Department and anyone else involved in turning the pumps on early. This is something I've preached for years and years and years, and it seems like we're getting more proactive as we're moving into the future here. And it's one of the easiest things that we can do that has the best impact in the central parish from all the way on the eastern side. In Santa Ma and AC, as well as going all the way to Geismar and Dara. So thank you for all involved, administration and board here, for activating the pumps. We missed it, and we're blessed, but we were prepared, and that's the most important part. Second thing is a point of emphasis. I know that Garrett Graves has made some announcements about a lot of federal money coming down into the state and into the parishes. This is one of those things that if we can take advantage of it at this sum, approximately 30 million in that range, this can have impacts not only today, but rippling effects for decades. That's what we're talking about here. That's how important this amount of money is to this drainage program. The ability to finish some of these major projects, Fish Bayou, Laurel Ridge, and take these money and create this wish list and attack these projects with this money where we can divert our current funds over to more of a maintenance and more of a citizen active ditch and culvert cleaning and road projects like this. This is one of those things that I hope this board will visit monthly and stay on top of, as well as the administration. We have missed previous chances at money, and I know the majority's going to the co-meet and that particular project, but whatever we can get, this is a shot of adrenaline. There's no doubt about it. And the ability, what can be done with this money is huge. And so I just encourage this board to really stay on top of that and this administration, and I would really appreciate it because this has a great effect. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clay?
Yeah, I just, two things. One is, I don't know if we can get any kind of update on where we stand with the Laurie's Levee extension project and with Livingston, or is that still taboo? I got several thousand people standing out there watching this every month, and you know we still in some negotiations. What are we doing?
Cody?
Yeah, I mean, we can't count on a whole lot because we're in litigation. I can tell you since the last meeting, the Drainage Board was actually served. In the first round of lawsuits, we weren't served, so we were actually served. And at this point in time, they're just they continue the hearing without date. There's no hearing set, so I mean we're just kind of in limbo on that. As far as moving forward, I'll defer to administration on what's their plans for that. But from the legal aspect, that's standstill.
And you meant that like the Pontchartrain Levee District was served.
No, so the initial lawsuit was just against the parish of Ascension, right. But I believe the permit's name was in the name of the levee board and also the drainage board. So I think they amended the lawsuit to add all the proper parties, and we were just recently served with it.
Yeah.
But no injunction hearing has been set yet.
Yes. And just a quick comment. I've had meetings with probably several of us had with Congressman Graves, and as I was telling you today, Chairman, that next month I got a proposal coming forward, and if we feel the need, I would ask the chair for a special meeting.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I know we've had that wish list around for a while, so we'll all we'll get together on this because you know fall is right around the corner, and we don't want to miss on any of these projects. Okay, with thanks for the report. Thank all the commissioners. We'll move on to number 7, approval of non-engineering selection. Ms. Jones?
Good evening. On July 11, 2018, the Purchasing Department received 2 proposals for setting and installation of culverts. After review, the Ascension Parish Non-Engineering Selection Committee recommend accepting the highest ranked proposal submitted by On Grade Construction and to authorize the parish president to begin contract negotiations for this service.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Mr. Todd, second by Mr. Johnny. Any opposition to the motion? Not. Motion passed.
7A.
That was 7A. Oh, we're gonna go to 7A, the resolution for the, Mr. Johnson?
Mr. Chairman, before you vote, for a matter of clarification, I think Ms. Deborah missed who seconded the motion to amend the agenda. Y'all remember who had seconded it?
Benny.
Mr. Benny.
Okay, thank you.
Motion was made by Mr. Benny. Need a second for the resolution? Second by Mr. Glue. Discussion? Any opposition? None, motion passed. All right, we have another authorization, number 8. That's Ron.
It is authorization to renew the following annual master contracts for professional services, topographic and boundary surveying services between East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Todd, second by Mr. Terry. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passed. Number 9, another authorization. Ron.
Authorization to renew the following annual contracts for wetland delineation between East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 and A. Los Environmental and B. Providence Engineering.
Motion.
Moved by Mr. Johnny.
Second.
Second by Mr. Terry. Any opposition to the motion? Motion passed. Number 10, Ron, authorization.
Yeah, authorization to renew annual contract between Otis Wagner Trucking and East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District for provide 4 trucks for hauling.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Benny.
Second.
Second by Mr. Todd.
Real quick.
Discussion, go ahead, Mr. Floyd.
Ron, we got this is another one of our normal truckers.
Yes, this is just a renewal. Matter of fact, I think he's one of the very few that have continued with us as we need him.
I know a couple of years back, we had on our side, had made them up their insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And so we worked to come up with a dollar value,
Yeah.
increasing the dollar value to work in
I think that did happen.
Yeah, I know it happened.
But that's
I'm
kind of
saying-
why you see in a few of them was the insurance requirement. It kind of drove a few of them away.
$1 million policy.
Yeah.
I did see that.
So do we have adequate trucking to perform our needs?
I'll say at this time we do, yeah.
Thank you.
Have a motion and second. Any other discussion? Any opposition? None. Motion passed. Number 12.
Motion to adjourn.
Moved by Mr. Johnny.
Second.
Second by Mr. Terry. We adjourn.